Welcome back to the Herb Doctor podcast with me, Caitríona Hegarty and Dr. Dilis Clare. And today we are talking about autumn foraging. So I will hand it over to you, Dilis.
Great. And this is partly prompted by the time of the year, but also I had a lovely day with a foraging expert down in East Clare called Alwyn, and it just refreshed my mind. I had been picking the blackberries. I have lots in the freezer at home, but some new things, some reminders, and any excuse to go into the natural world. So I'm going to talk about things that we can eat and then do a little bit of a deep dive on one of the herbs, which is the fennel seed. So because that's a little bit more, we're being a little bit edgy there in terms of it's not as simple. It needs to be explained in a little bit more detail. But that's not a reason to avoid it. And that's the main point that I want to make. It's about discretion, education, learning, knowing your limitations. So I'm going to come on to that. So meanwhile, certainly everybody in Ireland knows this plant. This is the fuchsia. It has these, they fade very quickly. I only picked them on my way here, but you can see how quickly it has faded. So this is one of the flowers. So many of us know that if you pick this end off and suck at the height of summer, and taste a little bit even now, there's one there for you to try as well, Caitríona. But that's what the bees are after. That's why, and that's what makes it sweet enough for the bees to get at. So that's that part. Then the part that I've just taken off, which was here, was green, and that develops into the fruit. Now, on my way home from clinic today, I passed 3 or 4 fuchsias that didn't look like they were fruiting. So, like the hawthorn and something else that under the blackberries and differences in the different kinds of a subspecies of hawthorn, there's a lot of variation in the natural world. So you have to just get to know your pet hawthorn, your pet fuchsia, or your pet hawthorn or whatever that gives the best yield for no effort, guys. We love this. So these are, some of them are much bigger than this, but these are the fruits. There's 3 of them there. So take off the stalks. I'm sure they wouldn't hurt me. And there you go. Now that tastes not of an awful lot. So a little bit of a spicy tang that hits the roof of the mouth, a little bit of pungency. Some of them are much bigger and taste like a plum. So there's a lot of variation even on the one tree. So that's something that you might put in your smoothie. You might nibble as you go along a hedgerow. That pungency on the back of my throat is just hit.
And mine as well.
Yeah. This is one of the things I love about herbal medicine. Never stop learning. Never, ever, ever. There's always something interesting in the hedgerows, the books, the research, the talking to other people. It's just endless. You know, I have done a whole podcast on hawthorn, so I'll refer you to that. I'm just going to show you that this was the one I used to the podcast. You can see there's no leaves. I could see that tree, you know, as big as a 2 or 3 story house from 100 yards away because it was just a massive red. This is the same tree, same time of the year, same day. There's a lot more leaves on this. And we've tasted these ones, haven't we?
We have.
And Caitríona was not that impressed. And then we tried these ones and we found that there was a lot more flesh. I always, when I'm on the herb walk or talking about them, I always eat them because people do not believe me unless I do this. So these have more flesh, therefore they're more of a crop, if you like. These used to be made into pies, sweet pies. They are marginally sweet.
Yeah.
But that's how it tastes to us because we're used to sugar-laced foods. That's not the sweetness that would, like honey would have been very, very small amounts, and that would have been the sweetest thing. Or licorice. Licorice is even sweeter than honey. Okay, then we have these, which is the rose hips. These are mega ones, and that's because they're from a cultivated variety. They're used in the same way medicinally as the wild dog rose. I just couldn't find any today. These may be slightly less medicinal. Most of the cultivated ones are, but they can be used in the same way. Now, if I wanted to use this in a tea, like the hawthorns, I would just bruise it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And put that in my teapot and drink it.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to eat the flesh, I would need to peel it off, spoon out all those seeds.
Yeah.
Because they are hairy and can stick in the back of the throat. So you'd have to peel those off, and then you can eat the flesh. And this is full of vitamin C. It tastes very nice.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's lovely. So it's not like the whole world stops and this is all you do. Obviously, you can't do your knitting at the same time. So if you're using the dog rose, it's smaller and more oval shaped, Rosa canina. Now this is full of vitamin C, but it's also particularly good for, so it's good for viruses. It's good for the functioning of all tissues, really. It's a water soluble vitamin. You can't have too much of it. Nice bit there. But it's also good for the cardiovascular system. It's good for labile and mild blood pressure. There's no problem with using it if you're on blood pressure medication, but it's not going to bring down serious blood pressure. Having said that, because 35% of people who are on high blood pressure medication aren't well controlled, there's certainly no problem in using this as an adjuvant treatment. Adjuvant means alongside. Okay, so there's the rose hips. I should think everybody knows these. I have tubs of them in my freezer. I put them in the smoothies. It's the blackberries. The sweetest ones are the ones on the tip, and they get less sweet as you go back. Again, lots of different hybrids. You have whole mounds of briars with no blackberries, and then you'll find a little sweet spot when you least expect it, that'll just have drooping with sweet berries. So they're all good for you. All of these purple and black berries are full of constituents that are very good, particularly for the eyesight, for the rods and cones in the retina. So given that a lot of us are exposed to screens a lot of the time, making sure the retina has good quality nutrition is very important. So then beside the fuchsia in the flower bed, which is in an apartment, near an apartment complex near me, I saw these seeds of the lavenders. Oh. And I thought, surely to goodness they're gone past their sell-by date. And then I thought, well, shall I check? And this is what I love about being curious. So when I checked and squished them and smelt them, now you see they can go in your teapot with your hawthorn berries. And we said what to do with the hawthorn berries, the same as the rose hips, is you just squish them, bruise them, and put them in with your lavender. So if you're heartbroken or your heart is having difficulty functioning because of high blood pressure or any other issue, if you have cholesterol, you want to reduce your stress, the lavender, the vitamin C, all of this, you're getting the picture, guys, aren't you, that this is all about mix and match. So you just take any rose, a rose by any name, okay? Where do you put it?
In the teapot.
In the teapot. That's about the right amount. Maybe 2 big petals or a little small rose like this. Just pop them in the teapot. So the teapot is getting full. And rose is absolutely, absolutely lovely for anybody who has had trauma in childhood. And trauma can be event related, or it can be an absence of what you need as a child. So it's not just physical hard times or cruelty. It's like, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's about just if things were tough, if you're consistently in tough situations, so that it takes a long time to learn how to trust the world when you grow up. So that's the lavender again. So what else do I have here? Speaking of hard times and how to have the courage to work through them. Okay. you know from my previous podcast on nettles that we have the nettle, but this is a different season for the nettles. Okay, so can you spot the seeds, Caitríona? Can you point to them? Yeah. So I'm holding this down here. If I squish this, it's not that it doesn't sting. It's just that it's done its stinging. So I'm holding it. When I went out with snippers and a plastic bag. And I eventually found them. Can you believe that there's a whole part of Ireland that doesn't have any nettles in it? But there you go. So to harvest these, you pull off the seeds. Oh, and the lovely little spider. Okay, but that's all good. So you can use sting gloves for this if you want. But if you're careful, these don't sting too much. There are some varieties where you can get a little tingle. But you know what, guys? A little tingle is good for the soul. So that's the seeds, and you harvest all the seeds from here. Now, another thing I learned this weekend that I didn't know before is that there are male plants, and the boys have things that look like mock seeds, but they don't droop. They go sideways and stay sideways. These are definitely droopy drawers, aren't they? So there you go. You peel these off, and these are all parts of the nettle are good for mettle, mettle, because they're full of metal, meta. All right. So this combined with the rose and the hawthorn. See how we love it all going together. So these are wonderful for the teapot, for strength. They're also good for anybody as an adult, as is the rose, if they're coping with chronic stress. They don't get... people can be addicted to chronic stress. Even if there isn't anything awful happening, they'll worry about something that might happen. Hasn't happened yet. 99% of things that we worry about don't happen. And you can see the tiny little seeds there, can't you?
Yeah.
But this whole part is edible. See, what I love about herbalists is they're not going to go looking to take out those teeny weeny tiny seeds. So herbalists aren't going to go and shake out all these droopy, holders, right? Because these are green as well. You put those in your smoothie and you've also got your folic acid, or as I call it, frolic acid. So all of this is to help with everyday life, really. Now, the other one I happen to have in my car, because we're revamping the herbal medicine beds outside the clinic. So if any of you are passing, say hello. So this is rosemary. You might have it in your garden. Neighbours might have it in their garden. Now is the time to snip it back. So if your neighbour has some, ask, just knock on a door or ask neighbours or whatever and just snip it. Because in this time of the year, you want to snip it back to a good bit, 1/3 of this, maybe even half, so that it doesn't get, if you leave rosemary to grow year on year on year on year, it just gets this long wooden stem that just goes all over the place, and it's not particularly attractive, not particularly productive. So if you want to keep your rosemary nice and shrubby, then that's what you do. Each autumn you just cut it back and let it grow. I think I have a spider here. So what do you do? Pick it and put that. I squish it a bit. It's delicious. So in the teapot, guys, and in your cooking, all of it in your cooking. The nettles, I did tell you in the nettle one to have a patch of nettles somewhere that's a good clean environment or whatever, and have 1/3 for the butterflies and caterpillars, 1/3 to go to seed, and have 1/3 where you keep chopping it back so that you get nice new growth and that you can put it in your cooking. And pesto. Pesto is where to put it. All right. Yum yum. Good value for money from it. Okay. Now we get a little bit more controversial. I picked the whole lot so you can see these carrot-like leaves. Now in the summer, this foliage is massive. All right. So this is an umbelliferous umbrella, but it's also very similar to a bird's nest. This is a flat flower. What's typical of it being a carrot, this is wild carrot, from which carrots evolved.
That's unreal.
So the root is edible in the spring. Like dandelion roots, they get tougher and tougher and tougher. Dandelion roots and wild carrot roots in the spring. So this leaves us with an opportunity to harvest the seeds. So let's put this to one side. We can shake those out and turn it over. And then if I shake this, it's always a good idea to leave these on a sheet of paper so that all the little mites can walk away. So these are the celery seeds. Sorry, the wild carrot seeds. These are very similar in use in cooking with coriander seeds. So they're used not in how much coriander would you use? Very small amount, all right? But using all of these spices offers more bang for your buck in terms of health properties, normalizing of physiology. Not an overwhelming taste at all.
Would you say there's a bit of like a aniseedy kind of taste?
Yes, they're all the same family. So the same way they do use aniseed, coriander, any of those things, all the umbelliferae, they're used in small amounts as taste. So some of the background to this herb, very important, very, very, very important to identify the right plant. Because there is a plant in the hedgerows, very similar. It's also an umbelliferous, and it's called hemlock. So it is, how to tell the difference, is hairy. The stem feels hairy. It's a very stiff, sturdy stem. The hemlock is much weaker, and it's all one color. When you're looking at it when it's in the summer, it's all one color, which is green. Whereas the hemlock has blotches of darker color. All right, and it's a much weaker stem. It's also defined by these bracts here, which have three little, like a little bird's foot. These are bracts. I'm not sure what these little bits are. Anyway, 3 prongs to these bracts at the base of the flower. Very dramatic, very architectural. So I think that gives you enough safety features. Then you bring with you your botanical key to make sure you've remembered it all correctly and that you've identified it correctly and differentiated it from other plants. You see, if we just kind of go, don't use any of the umbelliferae, then it's a fear reaction. Whereas this is plentiful, available, adds to our nourishment, and is has a good part to play. Now, the other controversial thing is, I'll tell you all the good things first. It's in one study, it had a clear pathoprotective effect, but it's so strange with research. It didn't actually, in the abstract, say whether it was in mice or in vitro or whatever. So you have to be very careful with research, that you don't overstate the case and you don't understate problems and you don't overstate benefits, right? You want to get that nice, we're always looking for the Goldilocks effect, aren't we? So don't use any of the umbelliferae unless you are 100% confident. So then I thought, there's all these, like I was saying with herb-drug interactions, there's all of these all over Google saying, don't do this because this might happen and it's dangerous because it might be mixed up with hemlock, or it might be. So scary, scary, scary. So I thought, let me see if there's any case reports. So I Googled, are there any case reports of serious illness or death due to Daucus carota, which is the Latin name? No. The only thing that came up was a man, 48-year-old, who had carotenemia, which is that he's eaten so many vegetable carrots that his skin turned orange. And he had a tummy upset. You would do. If you drink too much water, if you eat too many apples, you'll get sick. Too much of anything will make you sick. There's no case reports of serious illness, and there's no body bags. All right. Now, for an awful lot of the drugs on prescription that I use, There's a lot more body bags. I mean, for things like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, diclofenac, these all cause actual deaths and hospital admissions. So it's about proportion. Please be careful. Please identify things properly, but don't be afraid to do so. That's what I would say. The seeds can be used in bread, soup, stews. You can grind as a spice similar to caraway. Not caraway seeds I'm thinking of, rather than coriander. Yeah, my mistake. Sorry about that, guys. So you'll find them very commonly in the British Isles, in any disturbed soil, the edge of hedgerows, underneath the hedges. Very, very common. They have flat flowers, flat flower clusters. And I had forgotten this. There's a single red floret in the middle of those flowers. So it's like a flat platform, and then as it comes into autumn, the flowers curl up like the bird's nest. But they have a single red floret in the centre of the umbel. I've mentioned the feathery green bracts and a carrot scent when you crush the leaves. It smells carroty. Okay, and it looks like the carrots. If you're used to growing carrots, they look like carrot leaves. 13 subspecies, and on average they have 310 constituents. There are, because of that aromatic smell, they do have a considerable proportion of essential oils. And when you're reading the research, make sure that they're not doing the research on essential oils, because I don't recommend that you use essential oils of any of these things, because it's like a super, super mega concentrated reduction to an essential oil. So that's not a good idea. The essential oil can be used topically for musculoskeletal pains, among other things. We've been using it as a medicine and as a spice since the 3rd century BCE. And it's mentioned by Pliny the Elder and Dioscorides in the 1st century. This is one of the things I love about the herbs, is that they go back. You know, if they're going to kill masses of people or hurt us or in a really substantial way, we'd know it by now. No, we know the benefits by now. So why would we not know? It's not that they would have been blind and not observing in a scientific, organized way from generation to generation. So that's one of the things that I really like. So it's been used as a diuretic. It's used to prevent and treat stones, and as a carminative, which is soothing to the digestion. A painkiller, an antiseptic, an anti-inflammatory, and particularly in the Lebanon and in Chinese medicine, it's used for worms. Okay. Over the last 20 years, there has been a lot of life science evidence of antioxidant activity, anti-cancer activity, anti-inflammatory activity, gastroprotective activity, liver protection, and antimicrobial. But beware that a lot of this would be in vitro, which means in a test tube. A lot of it would be in vivo, which is tests on mostly mice, and some of them might be only done on the essential oils. So I would take that with a grain of sand. I'm going with tradition. Until they start doing clinical trials, which needs resourcing. One of the problems that we've highlighted in the book Uprooted Medicine is that along with only developing one system of medicine according to scientific principles, we've also failed to have a research budget for natural medicines. There's a lost opportunity. How much further would we be on in all of the things that are criticized, like non-standardization, if we had 200 years of resourced scientific investigation? So it's a lost opportunity. So the leaves can be used in infusion, particularly to prevent kidney stones. They can also be used for the digestion, kidney, and menstruation. Oh, here's another very important thing. If I was planning to be pregnant, I would not use the seeds. And this is where traditional knowledge about foods, where you would have lots of several generations sitting around a meal table. And some of the foods would be known to be good for fertility. and some would be known to be avoided if you want to be fertile. Some would be known to be good for menopause or perimenopause, or other life transitions, including, terminal care, that a lot of knowledge would have been known about these things. And the other lost opportunity is that we, particularly in industrialized society, because it has been so sidelined, that we have lost a lot of that knowledge, and we've lost a lot of connection with our taste buds and satiety. So there's a lot in there. Hi, so the word on the street is that Dr. Clare and Tim Morrissey have finally finished their book. It's called Uprooted Medicine, and it's subtitled A Revealing History of Medicine That Restores Herbs to Patient-Led Care. And the good news is that you can now purchase it from the website joinedupmedicine, all one word, .com. And it will be available in bookstores from November the 7th, because that's when we have our book launch. Our book launch will be in Charlie Byrne's Bookshop, Middle Street in Galway, on the 7th of the 11th at 6 p.m, and we look forward to seeing you all there.